Howdy mappers! Welcome to tonight's live stream. Today we're going to do a little bit of mapping in Dungeon Designer 3. I'm Remy Monsen and I'll be your host this evening. Or should we say Evil Dungeon Master, Evil Overlord. Yeah, let's go for Evil Overlord. You all love that, right? So today's plan is to just make a small temple dungeon in Dungeon Designer and working a little bit, throwing in a bit of traps, throwing some furnishing, and yeah, see what we can make here. So let's go ahead, as always, firing up Campaign Cartographer 3. So you already know the program, hopefully, and I'm just going to go right into it and start a new dungeon map. So, dungeon map, and for this evening, I'm going for the standard Dungeon Designer DD3 dungeon, classic style. So no fancy annuals or anything here. And it's just going to be a rather small map, so I think 200 by 150 will be enough. I did make it in metric, so it will be feet. Now, the background, instead of this brown dirt, I actually like to use the gray dirt instead. The gray dirt looks a bit more stony. I like that one, so let's go for the gray dirt 2-bit. And multiple levels? No, I don't need multiple levels. Oh, let's just call this the Temple of Secret. And we have our dungeon map ready to go. Okay, let's just start by drawing top floor of the ground floor of our building here, and let's just see where we can go from there. So I'm just going to use the room tools. Pick the add room. Angular room is fine. There are no fills set up already, so let's just see if we can find. Start with that. Oh, sample. Have here. Yeah, this is nice for temple floor. For the wall. Going for a simple solid stone wall here. Not the stone bitmap, that looks horrible. Very old bitmap from long ago. You can see I haven't built a fill style beforehand. Find something nice. Ah, yeah, stone gray, flat gray stone. That's a nice one. And with effects on, the wall will have a nice bevel, which will make it look a bit better. So, with 2 feet, yeah, we can live with 2 feet. Okay, and I'm just going to start by drawing the outer walls temple. Yeah, actually I want snap on. Just check what we have at snap settings. 10-foot grid 2. Fine. I like to have cursor snap on because that actually makes the cursor jump between points instead of placing them to the nearest point when I click. So from here, there we go. Nice little temple. So, just how big is this temple? Just see, I'm not sure because I just made it randomly. Use the distance tool from info and just see. Made it 55 by 55 foot. So a small, more like a shrine than a real big temple. So that's fine. Let's turn on effects. We add it. Hit effects. And we have a nice little temple to start with. Yeah, so what should I do with my temple? Well, first thing I want to do, I think, is just make both the doors. Can make. I like these open double doors. Placing them. And I have a nice little entry point. Some of you might hate me right now because I didn't place them in the middle, but that's because the length of the room didn't really match up. So let's put in some interior walls. Wall. Wall. Making one wall here. You can have a private section in the top here. Boom. Here as well. Now a couple of small rooms. So up a little bit. There you go. Perfect. Let me just start by making this look a little bit prettier. A few symbols. Never hurt anyone. Oh, go to my symbols, temple and statues, and let's see what we can find for a nice little altar. So I'm thinking this is some kind of nice temple to some nice god or goddess. So let's do something that looks a little bit nice. I don't want the sacrifices and all things. Go for the brown stone altar. And put the altar right. And a couple of statues to surround it. I'm using the arrow keys to rotate the symbols. This one is a little bit tricky. Let me show you guys something here. If you look at where this symbol is placed on my cursor, can you see that the cursor position is kind of in the upper left of the statue, or at least the orientation I have now? That means, as you can see with the snap points, it's basically impossible to get this to snap into a nice little row here. So I don't think I want to rotate it, but let's just right click it instead. Let's mirror it. Yeah. Put on this. E. Y, I think. There we go. As you can see, the default mirror didn't mirror it the way I wanted it, so I just manually instead of using the mirror, enter the scale values. So when you mirror an object in Campaign Cartographer 3 Plus or symbol, what you do is basically you set one of the scale parameters to a negative value. So this symbol is still scaled at scale 1, but it's now mirrored on the y-axis. So going to place this, and you can see it now fit much better with the Snapgrid when I can place it using a mirrored version instead. Do you wonder what happens if I set both to -1? Well, then you basically mirror it about both axes. So we can just do a little bit of testing here. Zoom in. Now, this symbol, let's go with the basic symbol first. Now we can this. This is the natural symbol. If I mirror it about the X, it looks like this. If I mirror it about the Y, it looks like this. It's a mirror of this one over here, really. And if I mirror it along both axes, one get basically a mirror of this last one here. So it's just which axis you mirror it about. It's perfectly fine to mirror it about both axes, but I have mirrored it about both axes, and if you look what I do have here, what happens if I rotate it a couple of times here now? You see? You can see mirroring it about both axes just creates a rotated version. So it just became a rotated version of the other one. So mirroring it about both axes is the same thing as rotating it 180 degrees. So you can say mirror it about both axes is basically pointless. You can just rotate it instead. Okay. Delete this temporary status here. Just go for putting it. A few more doors. Looks nice. Open door. Right here. Close door. Close door. So this is nice little place with an altar. See what more we can have while we are working. Some more nice decoration perhaps. Perhaps have some furniture. We should have some benches at least. Yeah, I think it has bench one. Oh, there we go. And just in case we want to have some kind of sermon here, we can put in. Looks horrible because they are not centered at all, so just there. As you can see, Snap is making me no favors right now. So instead of Snap, go Ortho, and I'm actually just going to do this by eye. It's not always Snap is your friend. Snap is a good way of getting things, especially walls, floors, in the right spot. And if you need to line up things, Snap can be very helpful. But it quickly gets annoying if you try to snap everything, because often you try to hit the center of something and Snap really won't always allow you to do that. It's similar to what I just showed you with the statues. The snap point in the upper left corner of the statue was wreaking havoc with the snap points when I was rotating it, because that was rotating it around that point, and that just didn't give me what I was after. Oh, kanskje? Nei, Reisja så her. Her. Just to make this. I'm not going to spend all tonight just putting in symbols and decorating this place like this. It's going to be a bit boring to watch. You two can place symbols, but in a few things. I want an office right here, and in an office, some kind of desk drawers. Okay. Does not look quite right to me. Let's call this boring stuff. Desk looks quite small. It's obviously not not an office desk. Don't really have a nice office desk, I think, right now. But we can just either take one of the symbols and make it a bit larger, or we can just, yeah, I think this. Just gonna descale it a little bit of bigger office desk. I mean, we have to give the head priest at least some space to work in, and he'll probably want places as well. The normal scale, not the huge scale ones. Bookcases. And if this is for a role-playing game, I'm guessing the head priest also makes some potions and stuff like that. So let's give him a lab decor. Yeah. So we can brew up magical potions like healing potions and stuff like that to sell to adventurers or anybody else needing it. One of these rooms, just going to quickly bed, chest, just right here, perhaps somewhere by oneself, all around table. Yeah, and middle room. Just gonna do this quickly, so I'm just going to dump in a large barrel of wine, some supplies, and all crates. 2 crates, and we have another crate stacked on top of the first crates. Probably, yeah, too much more. There we go. A nice little storage room. And we have the quarters for the head priest where he can sleep. And yeah, we kind of have everything we need for a nice little perfect shrine for some nice, good goddess. Goddess of health, life, love, something like that. But I do have a lot of map left to put things into. Oh, maybe, just maybe, there is something more here. Maybe there is more you don't know about this goddess. Maybe she has some uh, exotic hobbies, something like that, perhaps. We, we don't know, but we should find out, shouldn't we? Always fun to find out what hides below. Oh, I'm going to do a corridor. Oh, actually, a little bit corridor because before I do that, I'm going to do two things. First of all, I'm going to just actually I'm gonna use upgrade. You actually see that on the video. I think that might be difficult to see on the video, so I just put a grid for us. Square grid without labels, 5 feet grid. So this is just to help us a little bit. And let's make oh, there is one thing I'm not too fond of with the stairs from this style, and that's that arrow. Takes immersion a little bit, but I'm not going to get hung up on it right now. So I'm gonna pick stairs. So these stairs are 10 foot wide. I think 10 feet is actually a bit generous. I mean, if you build all your corridors 10 feet, that's about 3 meters for people like me who think in metric. That's some seriously wide stairs, especially if you just want some narrow ones. So I am actually going to go for an independent X, Y. Not sure the rotation. Yeah, the rotation is 0, so I'm going to go for half long and narrow. Put the stairs right there. Well, then we have stairs. The reason I drew the stairs first is because I wanted to fit the corridor around the stairs instead of the other way around. So I'm now just grabbing corridor tool, going to draw a 5 foot wide corridor, and actually I'm reducing the walls to 1 wall. Okay. If you saw my previous live stream, I talked a little bit about how corridors connect to rooms, but you can click, also you can press the B key right now, as it says on the tooltip, and it will connect to an existing room and it will break the wall, making a hole there. Usually when you have a corridor, you also want some kind of hole in the wall, obviously, because how else are you going to go through that wall? But in my case, I'm going to make it a secret door. And if you are planning to give the map to your players or something like that, you really don't want a big hole in the wall to show your secret doors. So I'm just gonna press C instead, which will connect it to the wall, but will not break it. So back here, you see the outline, and I'm actually going to stop in the middle of this. We'll see why in. So that's the top half of the corridor. The reason I stopped in the middle of the staircase is that I want the walls down below to be different, a different floor, different setup. So I'm going to continue the corridor with another style or another fill. So let's go to the corridor and I'm gonna change the floor to why don't I names of there, stonework fire king. The wall can actually be boring bubbles. It's boring, but they might be fine for the down below. But I'm not starting with the corridor actually. Starting with the room. Rooms use the same parameters. I think I'm going to stay with walls for the room. And so start room. Go to acts on. Then, and why did I wait with the corridor? Well, obviously, I just told you about how to break an existing wall, but I couldn't break a wall that wasn't there already, so I needed a room first. Now I can press B to connect it here, and it will break. And I'm just gonna end it parts. And as you can see, I messed a little bit up because I used wide walls in the corridor, which was not what I wanted. Just change that. That with change properties. Walls, but not the floor. I'm using the control key here to deselect the floor after I dragged over to select both the walls and floor. Selecting just the walls on top of a dungeon floor is basically impossible because when you select walls, they are lines and you have to select them by their midpoint, which is also the exact point the floor runs. But I could select all of them by just dragging over, and then I could deselect the floor itself because I have an access here to the end of the floor where there are no walls, so it's easy to deselect it. So I just that and I set width to 1, and there we go. We have a little bit. Okay, I could have worked a little bit more on these corners. What happens when the line widths are different? I'm not going to do too much about that right now, but what I am going to do is just make sure that these big walls appear on top of the small ones. So again, going to use send to back, and I'm gonna hit P for prior. Prior means the same thing I selected previously, which happened to be the walls, and do it, and they should be nicely sent again. And you can see now that this corner looks, if not perfect, it looks much better. It's a bit difficult to handle corners like this with different wall widths, because what I would normally do is that I would join these into one entity, so there was no actual ends, but I can't do that with different. So I'm just going to leave that for now, not a priority for me. So what do we find down in underground room? Well, maybe this goddess did have some eccentric hobbies too. Uh, uh, what can we give her? We have this nice little sacrificial altars. Sue also asks for a snake pit. I think I have snake. Not quite sure, but a snake pit sounds nice. But I'm gonna stick with a sacrificial altar. See, it still has my symbol parameters from earlier, so it's really stretched out. Right click, set normal more, and I have put it right in the middle here. Also need some nice little idols. This. What more can we have down here? Well, up with a skeleton on? That sounds lovely. I want those in my living room. I have a couple of those. Else, yeah, we have some blood splatters. Blood splatters won't be visible on this red. I could place it on top of the symbols, but I'm not going to mess too much about the order of sheets and things like that, which I would need to do, because the blood should not cast shadows, but it would need to be on top of the symbols. Maybe if we have some time, we can play a little bit with that, but not really a priority. Sue suggests that I use varicolor green blood. I could do that, of course. It doesn't look quite as scary because it ends up looking more like slime than blood. I mean, if you watch movies like Aliens and things like that with their acid blood, but if you do that, you kind of have to have your game set up to actually the players would need to recognize that scene is some kind of blood and not just some kind of random slime. Not always. But, well, we have to do a few things. I mean, right now this is, well, still cozy heavens for adventurers dropping by. So I was thinking, well, maybe we should have a little bit of a surprise for those player characters dropping by and trying to do unmentional things with this nice, good slash evil goddess of family and murder. Um, I'm thinking, let's start by throwing in a pit. And I'm not sold on the existing pits here. There's a trap menu here and a couple of pits. Could just throw in a spiked pit and be happy with it, but well, that would be the easy solution. And why would I want to do the easy? Well, I often do the easy solution, but not right now. We're going to make a bit of a manual pit instead. Sue complains that the blood is flying, so let's just grab all our blood and change the sheet to symbols flat sheet. That should fix flying blood. I mean, flying blood is, well, it's certainly something special. Okay, but that's not. Okay, so I want to make a little pit here to greet this adventurer. So can we go ahead and do that? I'm starting by making myself a nice little sheet. And I'm gonna call it pit top. This indicates that I'm going to do more than one sheet. So let's move this up. Right here actually. And I want the pit to be dug into the earth. I already talked about this nice little gray dirt bitmaps for that. And first of all, I am going to do a little circle just to indicate the size of the pit. This will not be the final pit. But I'm going to start with a circle. We're going to turn off snap. I think the pit can be, yeah, this is a nice size for the pit. Remember, this circle here is just top of the pit. Also just the shape of the pit, basically. But now I'm going to use the fractal polygon to actually make a more fractal shape for the pit. To a fractal poly. And I'm just gonna start along the circle and I'm gonna draw a rough. Yeah. I hope you can see the outline and you can see that this is not very fractal at this point. It's way too few nodes. So what I need to do is I need to up the depth. The depth is how many nodes will be added between any 2 points I click. Be a bit careful, too many nodes can seriously slow down Cartographer and even crash it. And each time you increase, you double the amount of nodes. Right now you can see I have one node in between here, but if I click the left or right arrow to increase, it's the right arrow to increase. You can see I now double that. If I click again, I double it again. I click one more. I think I'm happy with that. But as I said, be a bit careful. You don't want to overdo it too much. Because, as I said, doubling it each time, it gets old. So I'm just going to start drawing. I think I'm gonna change the strength a little bit. The strength is how much it waves. If I increase the strength a bit with the up arrow, we can get bigger spikes. And one. And I'm just going to draw around this. I'm gonna roughly estimate this circle. It doesn't have to be perfect. And if I get a shape I don't like, you can see this one is a bit obscured by the command prompt, but it goes too far into the circle. You can hit space to re-randomize it. So, and there we go. I now have a nice little pit. I'm just going to erase the circle I made. There we go. There we have it. My excellent little pit. Well, it's not so excellent right now, is it? It doesn't look like a pit at all. It just looks like some grey blob on the floor, perhaps. It might be constructed to think that the stone layers who laid down that red floor haven't done it yet. So we need to do something to make this pit a lot better. So my next task is to make a new sheet. I'm gonna call it the pit bottom. Okay, and the pit bottom should be below the pit top. Hit order here because I want it to be drawn atop the top. And all of this Doesn't really make any sense if you think about it, because why do I want the top of the pit to appear on top of the bottom of the pit? Not really making any sense, but that's because I don't want to cut a hole in this shape. I just want the floor to appear on top of it. It will look like it's a deep pit when we are done. That's the main point of everything we're doing here. It's to make an illusion of something. It's not trying to put things in whatever real world order you might have. But I want the bottom of the pit to be shaped roughly like the top of the pit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do copy, map, copy. I select this entity, I hit do it, and I set my origin point roughly in the middle. That might be 100% size. Click in middle, and you can now see the outline. Now I'm holding down the control key, moving my mouse downward. And this will scale my copy to be a bit smaller. Well, I think. Here we go. And now I have a smaller copy of the same thing, and I'm gonna place it exactly in the middle. Now we can't really differentiate it, so I'm just going to go change properties. Again, I hit P for prior. That would select the last thing I worked with. If I was working with selections, it would be the last thing I selected, but if I made a copy of something, it's actually the copy, which is the prior entity. So we can see at the line at the bottom here that I have one entity picked. So just right click, do it. I'm gonna change that to a bit of a darker. I'm going for the gray 4. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Well, it still doesn't look great. Actually, it looks absolutely horrible if you are trying to think this is a pit. But that's something we can actually fix. Now, I'm going to make this appear as some kind of a deep. So what can I do to do that? Well, first of all, these surfaces here just looks flat. I want to add some lines to them. I want to make them look a bit more like walls. This light section is actually the wall of the pit. So calling the sheet pit top was actually a misnomer. It's actually the wall of the pit, but it's also the shape of the top of the pit. So I'm going to leave it because I am going to make a new sheet called pit walls. Put that like that, yes. And I'm now picking up my line tool here. Well, before I'm going to do that, I'm going to set my color to black, width to 0, and I want my fill to be solid. I don't want that line to be filled with anything. And I'm just going to pick up my line tool. And I'm now going to draw simple lines from one point at the smaller floor to the same point in the larger entity. And it's important it has to be the same point. It shouldn't be between two things that sticks out that face each other, but the same point, like from here to here. That's the same point. And I'm not going to draw these too close. Takes a lot of time and can actually mess up the illusion if it gets many lines. So I'm going to do a few of these. these don't have to be 100% size. It eyeballing the locations, because it's very important to not have snap on while working with this. Would not help at all. Lines. Yeah. Right now these lines are a bit thin, so we need to do something about that too, but one thing at a time. One thing at a time. Oops. Yeah, I think that's enough lines. So they're not quite where I want them yet, but we have a start. Already you can probably see the illusion starting to form a little bit. You can see that the pit is now in a perspective view. You can see the walls around the entire pit. We can see the floor down there, and this gives an illusion that the pit is going straight down, while it really isn't. It's the same illusions that the stairs are doing. Actually, the stairs was hidden by the walls. If I hide my wall sheet for a moment, can you see the stairs here? You can see that they actually get smaller in the symbols as they go closer to the bottom. Technically, this doesn't make any sense. If you go to the top floor of your house and looks down the stairwell, you will see that the stairs go all the way to the wall at about the top of the stairs and at the bottom of the stairs. So this is just an illusion to try to make it looks like the stairs actually go downwards. And that's exactly the same thing I'm doing with now. I'm creating an illusion. So I'm starting to get happy with this, but these lines are straight lines. I want to change them a little bit. So I'm actually just going to fractalize. But you can't use the fractalize command on standard straight lines. So before I do that, I have to right click fractalize and do align to path. That converts the basic lines to paths instead. They will look exactly the same, but paths can be. The reason a line can't be fractalized is that a line only have two coordinates, the start point and the end point, and there are no way to add more nodes to a line, while a path can have an unlimited. So just select them all, do it, they are now paths. I'm actually gonna change the width of them a little bit as well. So let's try them as 0.1 might be too much. Yeah, that's too much. I'm going to go with 0.6. Yeah, I think that's a better. And I'm going to go for fractalize. Now, I did explain about the strength and the depth earlier, and what's important here, I do not want these lines to be very wavy. They should be almost straight like they are now, but just not quite straight. So I'm lowering the strength all the way to 5%. And I'm gonna set the depth to 2. I don't want too many nodes. And let's try with this. Okay. And The fractalize command does accept you to select multiple entities, but there seems to be a small issue with actually processing all of them. So this is why I'm doing one entity time. One. There we go. Now the lines are not perfectly straight, but they are straight enough. They should look somewhat straight to be able to look good in a drawing like this. But I don't want them to be perfect. Okay, we're getting close. The final part is now to add some effects to the pit to make it appear a bit more edgy, to put it like that, at the edges. So I'm going to go to pit top. Gonna add a glow effect. I want an inside glow, black inside glow. I think one map unit will be perfect size for this. Yeah, one map unit. I'm thinking maybe two map units. Right, two. Good. Yeah, two map units is definitely. You can see here now I have this effect which actually looks like the top of the pit is being shaded by the edge of the floor. And let's visit the bottom of the pit. Copy this glow effect, paste it to the bottom. Have copies because I am actually going to have an outside glow. That this thing on the pit bottom sheet? Probably not. There we go. Now it's on the pit bottom sheet. Okay, Keith asks if I did all the lines with fractal nodes, would it kill the PC? Well, it depends on how many fractal nodes you made. I mean, I did turn all of these lines into fractals, so they are all fractals now. They just have three nodes, I believe, or actually 4 nodes each. 5 nodes each. Each of these lines have 5, so they are fractal parts now. So I could have drawn them using the fractal tools from the beginning instead, but I like better to start with straight lines in this case. So I left the shadows in the corner here a little bit darker. It hides the edge a little bit, and I think that looks better than having a sharp edge. So let's continue making this illusion a little bit more illusory. Let's go again. On the top of the pit, I'm gonna throw in a couple of human skeletons here at the top, and down in the bottom, I'm gonna throw in some smaller human skeletons. Something more. Pile of skulls. Love pile. You might have noticed that the skeletons down here disappeared. And if I redraw, the skulls will disappear as well. And that's obviously because I did put the pit on top of the symbols. And you're actually going to learn why very shortly, but since I need symbols inside the pit, I want to do a symbols pit sheet. And if you remember how symbol sheet selection works, it looks at the word at the beginning. So as long as it starts with symbols, my symbols should continue to put them on the symbols pit sheet as long as this is the active. So let's make sure that's the active one, and I'm gonna copy the shadow effect from the normal symbol sheet. Okay. Just to grab the symbols, I'm just going to hide the pit for a few seconds. Going to take this, do it, them on the symbols pit sheet. Hide. There we go. Now we have few things down there. Let's just for throw down some treasure. I mean, there's always nice treasure at the bottom of pits, isn't there? Treasure mix. That. I love skulls and bones. Bones. Some blood down here. Where it actually shows up. Nice little pit. And I used several perspective techniques to make this look like a nice little pit. I used the lines and the two shapes, identical shapes, one big, one small, and it looks like the smaller shape is much farther down. I made smaller symbols or scaled down symbols, put at the bottom. I mean, you compare them with the symbols at the top. You can clearly see that, okay, these are obviously much farther down, either that or they're much smaller beings, but the logical conclusion is. So this is a nice little pit. But I want to hide this pit. I mean, who doesn't want to hide their pits? You don't want a pit to appear just visible for everyone. Nobody will fall into it if they could see it. So we need to hide the pit. And for that, let's utilize layers for a bit. I have my layers set. I'm gonna select my traps. I already have a layer called traps. It comes with almost all dungeon templates. And I'm going to take everything that is the pit and is inside the pit and put it on this layer. So again, change properties, and select everything, but not the skeletons on top here. Okay, that should be everything, I guess. And do it and layer. More. So if I now want to hide my little pit, what can I do to hide this pit? Well, I can just go to the layers. Can't be the active if I want to hide it. And hide it. Ooh, where's the pit? It's completely gone. And now we can do something to cover up that there is a pit there. So I'm just going to yes. And I was hoping to find a big rug. Ah, yeah. Here we have a big rug. Wood rug right there. So everything looks safe and no adventurers knows anything about that illusionary floor that hides the pit. They're probably just going to come down the stairs here and then, ooh, there's skeletons over there. And they run over here and try to ransack the skeletons to steal all the valuables, because that's what player characters usually do. But obviously, once they go over there, I can just go ahead and unhide the traps. And voila, you guys just fall into a pit. Good luck getting out of there. And because I put the pit after the symbols layers or symbol sheets, sorry, in the order, it means that the rug and everything else I put on top of it will actually be hidden beneath the pit. But once I go ahead and hide maps again, it will be visible. Be a little bit careful if you have symbols here that cast shadows that extends out over the pit, then shadows from that wouldn't be hidden, and that could be weird. That's okay. So we are getting close to the end of today, but I'm just gonna pretty things a little bit more up. So I mean, this is two different heights. This is ground level, and this is below in the dungeon. So I'm just gonna make the map a little bit to kind of showcase that fact. And to do that, I'm just going to grab one of my terrain tools. We are terrain tool here somewhere. Yeah, terrain water. I want water. I want some kind of grass. And I'm gonna grab the fractal tool. So I'm gonna start up in the corner, and you might remember drawing tools stop at the map border. So if I click slightly outside, follows the map border over here. And now again, just as before, this fractal is not fractally enough for me, so I'm gonna increase the depth a little bit, the strength too a little bit, and I'm just going to draw it basically right through here. This, and we're done. So that's the grassy part, and if I use list on the grass, I can see that it is hiding on the outside sheet. So let's give a little bit of effect to the outside sheet. Outside, no effects there. I'm gonna do much the same thing as I did with my pit. I'm gonna go for a glow, black, outside glow. Is the strength a little bit. Let's put 25 instead, and a radius, I think 2 probably enough. And there we go. You can see now that the grass has this little edge effect, which actually makes it look like we are cutting away a layer of our map. So now we have this top section, and this bottom section looks like some kind of cutaway, just to show you what's below. I could, if I wanted, perhaps have drawn the grass more around the entire thing, or I can keep it halfway. So I'm just again going to do a little bit of prettying up on the outside before we end up here. Part, not really a part. I want some stones outside temple pathway. Let's just make it out of cobble. The flagstone is better. Don't work cobble. I'm going to use this one. So instead of actually using the drawing tools, do it the old-fashioned way. Going to grab a smooth polygon, put it. I don't have a good sheet for that, so let's just call it. Yeah, it's my cobble sheet. Need a cobble sheet. The walkway around the temple. Like this. We can hit our cobble sheet. And I edge fade to that. I with 5 units. Might be a bit much, but I just. There we go. We have a section faded at the edges. I could probably do a little bit, make it prettier, but my idea here is that it's faded at the edges because vegetation is eating its way in from the edges. Grass, moss, things like that are gradually covering the edges, and that's why it would be a little bit softer. We put some decorations. Here they have some poles. Way. And all good. Dungeons. Need some trees. Probably. Probably also use some rocks. Oh, I don't think. I'm not happy with them. Have to be done. Done another way, I think. I will forget that. Okay. So there you go. I made a nice little temple to you. I could have spent some more time actually decorating this thing. Ah, wait. Kind of forgot one of the important things. We wanted a secret door, didn't we? I did promise you a secret door. Well, secret doors aren't anything fancy because the whole point is to actually hide them. So we have this nice little S mark I can power up, often used in the old-fashioned maps. Just go S. This S is actually upside down. Looks weird. Well, and there we go. And of course, if you plan on giving this map to your players and show them to your players, you should utilize things like layers. For example, I can now do layers. Let me just add a layer. Call the layer for dungeon. I'm now first going to hide my traps because they should not be on the dungeon layer. Then I'm basically just selecting everything. You get it, do it, put it on dungeon layer. This go, and I can now actually go and just hide the dungeon layer, and the players won't know that anything is up until they find that secret door, and you can actually show them. Of course, you could use much more layers that I'm using now. Why just use one layer that then you have to show the entire dungeon at once, but I don't have to show you how to make your layers. You can do that. But then immediately, once the players find the thing, you can now show the dungeon layer. And once they go a little bit deeper, you can show the traps layer and then laugh at them for falling into your trap. So, I hope you're happy with today's map. It was just a simple little dungeon, really. But there was a couple of nice features. And, well, any last minute questions? Just give you a short while to ask questions before we end this stream. While you're thinking about that, you know, it's always weird sitting here waiting a little bit for questions because I don't want to talk too much because that stops people from typing, and there's a little bit of delay on the stream, so I have to wait a little bit extra on my end before anyone is done typing. But it seems like there are no questions, so I thank you all for coming. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little dungeon, and I wish you all a nice evening, or a nice morning, nice night, or whatever might be in your time zone. But next week, I guess Rolf will be back with something. I have no idea what he planned, but I'm sure I will be back doing a live stream with you guys at a later stage. So, good night, everyone. Have a nice day.